we are. They're 20-minute segments. I'm in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 2, verse 19. And Jesus said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber fast while the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, and then shall they fast in those days. No man also seweth a piece of new cloth on an old garment, else the new piece that filled it up taketh away from the old, and the rent is made worse. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine doth burst the bottles, and the wine is spilled, and the bottles will be marred. But new wine must be put into new bottles. Now right here I got to stop for a moment, and I got to explain. All of these teachings, like that particular stuff right there, Jesus is talking of things that actually happen during them days. I mean, what a garment would look like with a brand new piece put on an old one, and you're sewing the new one into the old, and the old is falling apart, and the new is not, so it really can't stick to it. So you don't do it that way. You try to fix the old with the older stuff to make it look the same. And the wine and stuff. Now, what I'm trying to say is Jesus taught the people by speaking the language and the events and stuff like that they understood. He was talking to them in parables, like the parable of the sower, the prodigal son. All these, you got to read the whole thing to understand. Some people try to use these words and say it. This is the way it is. Like when Lazarus was in the arms of Abraham. I think it was Abraham. We're going to get to that. And they were on one side of the chasm. And the sinner on the other side, who was in hell, was thirsty. And he yelled across and said, Abraham. I think it was Abraham. Not sure on it. I have to look it up. Send Lazarus over here with some water so I can drink. Now that didn't really happen. He's trying to explain something to the people in the language and the activities of the day. For instance, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into heaven. What does that mean? Can a camel go through the eye of a needle? Of course not. You're talking about a little needle, right? Camel's huge. A couple 1,000 pounds, maybe. He's talking in language and activities and stuff like that they understand. Now, when there were fences and gates and stuff like that, structures surrounding their towns, villages, houses, they had narrow entranceways that were shaped like this, like the eye of a needle. In order for a camel to get in there, it was easy for a man to crouch down and go through, but for a camel, who's huge, they had to get down on their knees and crawl through what was called in that time, because of its shape, the eye of a needle. Does any of that make sense to you? Were they really saying the camel was going to go through an eye of a needle? Or were they using language and explanations of something that they could understand. That's what that was. La-di-da. Whew. Let's continue here. Verse 23. And it came to pass that he went through the cornfields on the Sabbath day. Now, back during the Bible days, when there were ordinances and statutes and a calendar that was set up, and on certain days in the Jewish calendar or the Israelite stuff, those days were all numbered. And the Sabbath day, in those days, according to that listing of the days, they were always the same. Okay? When the Sabbath day came, it was always on this particular day. When the feast of such and such was supposed to be eaten, it was always on this particular day, according to the calendar. That's the way they did it. It's not done like that for us Gentiles. We don't live according to that structure. That's why I said to you, in 6 days you're going to work, and on the 7th you're going to rest. Not necessarily Saturday. It just says 6 days. Oh, man. I go on and on and on. And it came to pass that he went through the cornfields on the Sabbath day, and his disciples began, as they went, to pluck the ears of corn. And the Pharisees said unto him, Behold, why do they on the Sabbath day that which is not lawful? They're picking the corn. You're not supposed to work on the Sabbath day, right? Like shucking the corn. And he said unto them, Have ye never read what David did? Did you ever read it? Read the Old Testament. When God said, search the scriptures to see if it's not so, or if it's true. He wasn't talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and all that stuff. That wasn't written yet. And here we're talking about was written back in the old days. Have ye never read the first several books of the Bible? What David did when he had need and was an hungered, he and they that were with him, how he went into the house of God in the days of Abiathar, the high priest, and did eat the showbread, which is not lawful to eat but for the priest, and gave also to them that were with him. And he said unto them, The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for Sabbath. Hold on a second. I think this is going to be the last segment. I just can't talk that much anymore. The Sabbath was made for man, for your rest, not the man for the Sabbath. It'll make no difference if you're a man or not to the Sabbath. Therefore, the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. In other words, if God says you can do something on that day, and he ordains a lot of stuff today for us Gentiles to be done on the Sabbath day, because we're not following that Israelite calendar, the Jewish calendar. We're not living according to those rules. That particular stuff. Oh, man. All right, chapter 3, verse 1. Listen to this. Listen how this one starts. And he entered again into the synagogue, And there was a man there which had a withered hand. One that was looking like this or something, it was all messed up and deformed. And they watched him, whether he would heal him on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse him. Wow, Jesus was going to do something good on the Sabbath day. And what I just read? The Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. The Son of Man is Jesus. And he saith unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. Come over here. And he saith unto them, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil, to save life, or to kill? But they held their peace. These self-righteous people didn't have an answer for that. And when he had looked around about on them with anger, let's see if he really meant that. Let's see. Oh my gosh. There's so much here in explanation that I can't do it all in a couple of minutes. And when he had looked around about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he said unto the man, stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. The guy probably was holding it and hiding it. He was embarrassed because of his hand that was deformed. When Jesus told him to stretch it out, even before he was finished obeying the commandment, Jesus said to him, stretch forth thy hand. That's a commandment. Do this. He did it, and he was healed. It was made whole because he obeyed the commandment. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. You imagine how this guy freaked out with happiness? Suppose he was right-handed. Huh? And he did most of his stuff with his right hand, and it got withered somehow. Or maybe it was withered from birth, and he was supposed to be right-handed, and he was awkward with his left hand. You ever try wiping yourself with the other hand? Huh? I'm not trying to be rude and crude here. You ever try doing things with the other hand that you really can't do as well with this hand? Hey, I'm right-handed. I can do a lot. I write with it. I wipe myself with it. I do a lot of things with this hand that I don't with that one. This one is like the number 2. The number 2 hand. And it says right here, and he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole, same as the other one. That's what God did for this guy. And the Pharisees went forth, and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. Jesus eventually went to the cross, remember? But Jesus withdrew himself with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him, and from Judea, and from Jerusalem, and from Idumea, and from beyond Jordan, and they about Tyre and Sidon, a great multitude, when they had heard what great things he did, came unto him. And he spake to his disciples, that a small ship should wait on him because of the multitude, lest they should throng him. For he had healed many, insomuch that they pressed upon him for to touch him, as many as had plagues. Everybody was coming to Jesus. Do you see anybody running to Jesus today in America? Nope. Doesn't happen. They've kicked God out of everything. The courts, hospitals, schools, parks, public parks. You can't put a sign up saying Jesus. You can't make a nativity on Christmas. You can't worship God. You know what they're putting out now? Islam from the Muslims. Those are the ones who you're going to have to fight in the future. Along with the Catholics, the Democrats, the Mormons, the Communists, everyone except the few who are following Christ. But you know what? A lot of us are going to die. I might be dead before that starts, because I'm already almost 72. Not almost 72. I still got 6 months left. Yeah, a little less than 6 months. So I'm 71 and a half. A lot of people are going to die. There's only a few that make it. It's not my words. It's written in this book. It says, wide is the road that leads to destruction, and narrow is the path that leads to everlasting life. There's a lot of people that go in on the wide road leading to destruction. The words are, there's few that find the right path. You want to be one of those. Those of us who diligently seek God for the right reason will find him. He'll clean you up. And every time you trip and fall, you say, God. That's when you talk to him privately. This is what happened. He already knows. But he wants you to talk to him. Just like I'm talking to me right now. Hi, God. It's me again. And I'm happy that I'm still sitting here talking to you. As a matter of fact, I'm thrilled that you gave me another day so I could do it. I'm gonna stop reading this right now. Let me read just 2 more verses. And unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him and cried, saying, Thou art the Son of God. These are the devils, man. And he straitly charged them that they should not make him known. He wasn't ready to reveal all that stuff yet. But the devils knew. There's people today that are filled with unclean spirits. They're listed in here. We'll get to some of them. All right, I'm going to knock this off now because I got a sore throat. I got to take a couple of pills. I got a headache. I'm tired. Let me see what time it is. It's not too late. It's 20 after 12. A little after midnight. Oh, it's another day. It's Got to be 6 days. Let's see. Let's look at this thing. Sunday the 6th, January 6th, 22 minutes after 12. How about that? Anyway, God is good. God can clean you up. And while you're having your troubles, He's not going to stand back and let you be alone. He's right there. Try to realize it. Visualize it in your spiritual mind, and He'll give you peace and comfort. I'm not saying it's easy. It's tough. I got tough moments. I really had a real tough night last night. I'm tired tonight. God talks to you, and He says the old people are going to have visions, dreams. That's what I'm having now. I'm fascinated by it. And I'm going to knock this off. Thank you, God.